This is Hunter Wade at the Athletes Lounge podcast. I'm here with my guest.
Hi, this is Kristi Sigler. I'm the girls basketball coach at Jennings County High School.
So, just starting off, Coach, you've already, won your first game this season. How's that feel, first off? And two, was there anything from the game you think you can really build upon for the rest of the season?
Yes, it's hard to believe that we've already had a game and it was on Halloween, so that was a little different. I think it's the first time we've played in October. Looking at that game, on paper, it was really solid. I thought as you're sitting there watching that game live, there was a lot that, ugly moments, high moments, low moments, and a lot that we can improve upon.
So, at this point, you're several years into the job. So, how would you say your coaching style has evolved to this point in the year, or to this
I don't
point
know
in your
about
career?
I don't know about evolved. Just I think we really try to focus on a family atmosphere, team first. Everything we do is to promote our culture of helping each other. It's all about the we and having pride in everything that we do, and talking about being high character young ladies, and building upon that and being strong, being tough.
So, you mentioned that you kind of played an early first game, in October. That did you have any rushed preparation time, or did you still get the same amount of time with your girls that you usually do?
Same amount of time. We started, I think, that Monday, October 16th. Luckily, in the fall, there were a lot of athletes that were coming in, and we got to work with several of them that are on our varsity roster. And so that always helps with that limited contact period. But it was a quick turnaround for our first game once everyone was actually in the gym that were coming off of fall sports.
And that was yeah, my next question is how many people did you come out to wait on for fall sports? Because sometimes coaches get kind of derailed a little bit by fall sports, just missing kids.
We are a school that shares a lot of athletes, and we encourage them to play multiple sports, but we were waiting on two or three coming off of the fall.
So, what's your kind of philosophy like offensively and defensively? What do you prefer to do as a coach?
Get after it. We want to be the most aggressive team. We want to push the ball in transition. Defensively, our goal is to hold people under 45, 43 points a game. Last year, that kind of crept up on us. So we want to get back to that just defensive mindset, and we want to be aggressive.
So, how do you kind of install that in your kids? Because not every girl is just born, or not every kid's born aggressive or born an aggressive defender. So, how do you try to kind of like install that into them?
It starts at practice, and everything we do, we want it to be a competition. We really promote internal competition and set up drills to where they're competing in everything they do. There has to be a consequence, and they have to be able to carry over from what we're doing in practice to a game. We want the games to be easy.
How just asking about you here, how did you get into coaching? How did you get, into the spot you are now?
Just for my basketball career in general, I actually played at Jennings County and then went on, I played at IU. And then after I graduated from Indiana, I moved to Texas and went to work for ExxonMobil. And while I was in Texas, you weren't really allowed to, they have a state rule that you're not allowed to be a lay coach and coach at a high school. And I'm in corporate America, I'm not a teacher. So I kind of missed the competitive environment. I missed basketball. And then when we moved back to Indiana, it was one thing on my list is I wanted to get back involved with the game.
I forgot about that role. I'm a Texan native, but yeah, you just reminded me that all my coaches I had down in Texas had a really funny job within the building.
Yeah, they
The
do.
the so yeah, you when you move back, well, here, you mentioned you played at IU. What's the biggest thing, or the couple of biggest things that you took from your playing career at playing at a high level to, what you try to teach upon your girls now?
It's kind of funny that you asked that, is because I would say when I first started coaching as an assistant, I was so competitive that I had to realize that the girls did not all of them have that same mindset. So it's not all about the X's and the O's and the wins and the losses, but you've got to build the relationships with your kids, and they have to understand that you care about them as people versus just more about going out and winning basketball games.
So here, what's changed the most since when you were a player to now?
What's changed the most since a player to now? I think it's just, you look back at yourself as a player and, you see things that you would want to change or want to experience. And I think as a player, there's so much more technology at hand for these kids now, and being able to prepare, watch film, just access to just technology. And I would say that's the big thing that I see that is a huge benefit to these players.
Well, I'll ask on the flip side. Some coaches I've talked to say the getting kids to watch basketball has almost been their biggest struggle as a coach recently. Have you found any of that to be the case?
It is. Not a lot of them watch basketball games. We talk about that all the time. So if we know there's a big game, we'll send it out through our chat, just even at the collegiate level. Now, the success that IU women have had recently, I think that has spawned a little bit more interest in the women's side of the game. So
So, how much do you, as a coach, do you rely upon film? Is film saying you're big on, or is film kind of like an afterthought to you?
I think as a coach, our staff, we're very prepared, and we watch film a lot, in preparation, as far as even preparing for this year, since it's so early in the season, going back and watching last year's film of teams that were getting ready to play here early, and understanding who they lost, tendencies of personnel and style of play. We watch a lot.
You mentioned earlier that you like your defense to be aggressive. What's the biggest skill that you look for that would get a girl playing time in your system?
Compete. It just compete and unselfish.
Yeah. So, and then what's on the other hand, I guess this answer might be pretty easy. What's the biggest way to get a girl bench? What's saying you just don't like in a player? What's like a skill that you're just kind of I guess that is probably the biggest negative is not competing.
Not competing, not working hard, bad attitude. I think that's the same from any coach that you would probably talk to. But I think on the flip side of that, that's our job as a coach to kind of mold them into, them understanding where they can get to.
Well, so when you're at IU, what are your best memories as being a player at IU?
I wouldn't trade the experience for anything. I really wouldn't. It helped me, going in as a freshman. I didn't play early, so there's some adversity there, and that grows you. But best memories, just being with your teammates, playing against the competition levels that we played, getting to see what we got to see in all the arenas that we played in. I got to go overseas and play in Europe in the summer for the Big Ten All Star Tournament team. I would not trade that experience for anything. And then obviously the education I received helped me get my first job.
What was that the Europe experience like? That you intrigued me there.
It was great. It was great. Basketball was very different. Me being 5'2" and playing in the Big Ten, I think the biggest thing I remember from that trip is when there was a jump ball, I was the one jumping, and that's kind of a first.
The
So
Just ask a little more about your time at IU. What were the games that you considered the biggest games within the conference?
obviously that IU Purdue
Yeah.
rivalry, it was always a fun one, whether you were playing at Mackey or at Assembly. It's just that rivalry is there. Um, I would say that was by far the biggest one.
Asking you to think back a little bit more. What was your
I say
recruit?
this has been a long time.
Yeah, yeah. No, 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 it's not been that long. Nothing's that long. The what's your So what was your just ask a couple questions? What was your recruitment like? Like, because sometimes people get a certain amount of offer letters from all over the place, and then they start to go throw out all types of schools that they thought about.
Looking back, that was something that my recruitment was probably very different as I committed to IU after my sophomore year. So during that summer between my sophomore and junior year.
So what you're saying is you're just better than everyone else in high school.
No, it was, it goes back to just wanting to play at Indiana.
Yeah.
And, the last couple days, I think that's really, I've watched so many just interviews with Coach Knight's passing, and that was my childhood. And being able to play at a place just in that building was a dream of mine.
I was gonna say, what's it like to be a fan of a school and then actually end up getting to go to that school?
It was amazing. Like there's nothing like playing there and seeing that the success and that the level that program has grown to and what Coach Morin has done is just it's fun to watch.
Were there concepts offensively and defensively that you played at IU that you tried to apply to Jennings County?
Not necessarily. I mean, there's things that I learned, against as far as what we did defensively. You know, we played a lot of junk, and that part of that was because of me and my size. They had to get me through a lot of screens. So maybe some of that, but also from what other teams did, you do remember.
So just saying I came across when I was doing my research. How big of a thing is free throw shooting for your team?
You would think that we would shoot a greater percentage, but um, it's big. We spend a lot of time on practice at it, and our goal is over 75% for every game.
I, I don't want. I want to word this right. Not is it not not maybe frustrating might be too strong a word, but like because you were really good at the free throws. The so is it like is there anything you try to teach kids with free throws that you I mean because she led the nation in free throws for the people that are missing the context of this and free throw percentage.
When we talk about free throws, it's repetition, it's mindset, it's mental. You've got to put yourself in those pressure moments, and you've got to be able to, take a breath and slow down and put it in. So you have to have confidence when you're going to the line.
How tall is your team?
We have pretty good size this year. I think we have two kids at 6 foot, several others at 5'10". We have good size,
Does
good
that
length.
make rebounding a bigger focus or less of a focus, knowing that when you're a little bit bigger, rebounding kind of can come a little bit more naturally.
It is. It's a goal. Excuse me. Going into our first game the other night, we wanted to double them on the boards and have plus 10 offensive rebounds for the game. And we met both of those goals. But that's something that we take pride in, and we should never be out rebounded.
Do you how much of an advantage is it when you have that much size? Does it let you play different ways you would want to? Like, can you switch the zone if man to man's not working and vice versa, or do you think it limits you a little bit just because bigger kids tend to be a little bit slower? It's just the way things work.
It is. We are still very athletic for our length, but it does give us, we will play some zone. We'll adjust to personnel and teams that we're playing, but overall, it's just take care of the boards.
Do you prefer outside shooting, or do you prefer to try to get to the rim and finish?
I think you look at it, and I don't care if they shoot the three. Obviously, it was something that I was comfortable doing. I want them comfortable in taking open shots. But you look at empty possessions, and if we, have a couple empty possessions, we've got to make sure that we're getting a post touch and getting ball reversals. So it's something that we work on a lot at practice.
Any anything at your team? Is there anything just in any of your years at Jennings County where you tried to kind of implement something and it didn't really work the way you wanted to? Any type of set or anything like that?
I think that always happens, and you just have to adjust, and nothing works perfectly the first time. And I would say the kids have to understand what you're trying to accomplish, and I think that's the biggest carryover, because I think, like we discussed earlier, not a lot of them watch a lot of basketball on TV.
Yeah.
So understanding spacing, understanding, dribble penetration opportunities, and just conceptually what you're trying to get out of their offensive end of the floor.
Has there been what were your numbers like when you first got to Jennings County?
As far as like
Y-
number of players involved in the
Yes.
program,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure. We look at it from a program perspective. We were struggling as a program in 2009, and really 2010. There were a couple of seasons there. When I started coaching as an assistant, Coach Longmire was there, who's now at Seymour, and then actually Carrie Manowitz, who's now in an administrative role at our central office, assistant superintendent. I played with her in high school, so we kind of did this thing together, and there were there were some growing pains. So turning the program around with both what she and I did together, and then she had to step down when she took the administrative role. It's it's been a growth, it's been a process, and it's been a lot of fun.
Was it a challenge to get numbers back up, or did it kind of grow as your system got in place, or did you have to do some going?
I don't ever really remember our numbers being super low. I think this year we're carrying like 25.
Yeah,
So we're able to have a, JV freshman or JV red, JV and varsity roster. So that's good. And we're getting a lot of games for our JV red kids. And I think what we stress in the program is we take pride in whether you're the best player or maybe you're not the best player, you have a role in the program if you want it.
the so is there a issue in your area overall with numbers, or is it pretty healthy over there?
It's pretty healthy.
Okay, because in Southern Indiana, I think it's a little bit of a concern right now. Let's
Yeah, it's
d-
pretty healthy. We do a lot with our youth. We do a lot with our youth. We just had 2 youth days this past 2 Saturdays, and I think we had 50 to 60 kids that had registered for those, and attended.
and that kind of went to my next question. How much control do you have over the middle school and even lower than that ranks?
I don't know that it's so much control as it is you just have to be involved. And, I'm constantly communicating with our middle school coaches. They are very active in what we do as far as wanting to bring the games or bring their kids to games. The same thing with the youth. What we did with that was, if you attended or registered for one of those, you get to wear your t-shirt to a game. And we stress with our older kids and our high school kids how important they are as role models for our youth. Um, we have several, uh, starting in third grade. We do some travel teams that actually they play, and then we have our third and fourth and fifth and sixth grade rec league as well.
So, going into this year, what's your goal in your mind for your team?
I Everyone says the sectional is a goal because Bedford's won it so many years in a row, but it has to be higher than that. Like, yes, with our sectional is tough. We have our conference is tough. So it's not necessarily just Bedford, but it can't be a limiting goal. It's
Mhm.
how our schedule, if you look at it over the course of the season, it's a very stacked schedule. Like it's brutal, but there's a reason for it. And we have to grow, we have to learn, we have to battle, and we got to put ourselves in situations that we got to be ready to perform every day that we go out.
How have you how do you kind of mentioned how good Bedford's been. How do you prepare your team for a team like Bedford? Is that maybe the most preparation that goes in for an individual game, or how's usually against Bedford, how does that go?
We don't prepare for them any differently. I think Bedford, they've proven that they win and they know how to win. And when younger kids see older, people that they look up to win, it becomes a mindset. Winning's contagious. And when they step on the floor every game, no matter who they're playing, there's an expectation that they're going to win that basketball game. And they're not afraid. And they've done that over the years with the schedule that they've played and understanding roles and with an aggressive mindset. When they play you, they are the most aggressive team on the floor and they get others to back down. And we can't do that.
So right now, how do you try to at this point in the season, this is where the grind kicks in, where it's, you're playing multiple games a week. What's the average practice throughout the week look like to where your kids don't, get their legs burned out?
We go 2 hours, 2 hours and 15 minutes a day. Fridays might be a little shorter depending on, or the day before a game might be a little shorter. And we definitely, as the season progresses, those times will get a little shorter. But there are one day a week we do go at 6 a.m. where that is a little shorter of a practice. So they have kind of an evening at home. But it's, when we're there, we go hard.
Yep. Do you prefer, as a coach, do you prefer morning or night practices?
Prefer, the once a week in the morning. We went yesterday in the morning and it was actually a very good practice. As far as preference, probably evening. Since I am a lay coach, we don't start until 5:30.
Yeah.
So I think that's hard on the kids. Every night being in the gym from 5:30 to 7:30, 7:45. So we try to adjust on that.
Yeah, and it's cold in the wintertime when you leave it.
It is, and it's dark.
It's dark and cold, but that's what the hoodie and sweats are for. The So this year, you mentioned your goal is it's not a set goal, but you want bigger than sectionals because you want bigger than sectionals every year. The Do you use the regular season as kind of like a warm up for sectionals? Do you kind of do different
Yes.
things you want to do? And obviously, because everyone makes it, so sectionals is what you are really prepping for all year.
Yes, and that's one thing that my high school coach always said was, your season starts when the sectional starts, and everything else was just preparation. So you got to get kids ready. You've got to put them in pressure situations, and they've got to learn as that season goes on.
So what was when you got the when you moved from assistant coach to head coach, were there any changes that you really wanted to make, which you're able to implement, or did you kind of were able to keep the same base, foundation?
The same base foundation. Carrie and I were, it's funny. We still talk, after every game, and it's really we're on the same page. So
That's really all I have from like a prepared question standpoint. Is there anything you want to get out there to mention?
no, I think it's basketball season's here. It's exciting, and hope to see fans in the gym.
Well, I've been Hunter Wade with the Athletes Lounge podcast, and thanks for coming on, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Hey guys, this is Hunter Wade with the Athletes Lounge podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe where you can. Thanks.